Hello, and welcome to Cooking with the Wooden Spoon. Today we are making crockpot meatballs. I love crockpot meatballs. I do make them a lot. I do turkey meatballs, chicken meatballs, and then beef meatballs. My favorite, definitely, are the beef meatballs. You have all heard me talk about Dreamy 280 before. I'll be using Dreamy 280 ground beef, 2 pounds for this. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chop an onion pretty small. Typically, I don't chop onions on camera because it's kind of boring, but I'm doing this recipe by request. So I wanted to make sure that I was very thorough in my directions. So we will be showing you how small to dice the onions. So I thought it would be kind of fun to start that out. I also thought that it would be kind of fun for you to see my spot. If you know me, you know I have a spot at the table and I have a spot at the counter. In my spot, I usually do most of my prep. So very rarely do I stand behind the counter to do prep. I do stand behind the counter to do our fun videos, but for the most part, I'm sitting at this spot. So I thought it would be a fun way to start our video, especially since this is a request video and kind of a family video. It started out whenever I was young. I think I have told you before that my mom passed away when I was pretty young. I was 10. So I did a lot of the cooking after that. And my dad was a great, great cook. He was very, as I would like to call, meatitarian. He did a lot of stuff with meat, but he didn't make meatballs. But my best friend Heidi, her mom made the most amazing meatballs. Actually, her name is Sylvia. Sylvia is, to this day, the best cook that I have ever encountered. I have, had the fancy dinner at Dan Dan in Milwaukee, or Esterev, I guess it was, with the top chef Dan Jacobs. I have had Michael Simon's delicious food, but none of the food that I have had compares to Sylvia. Sylvia makes meatballs that are just amazing. I can remember growing up and going to Heidi's house, playing outside. We would be outside all day long, playing outside, coming in and smelling crockpot meatballs at Heidi's house. So I needed to make these myself. With Sylvia's advice, I have figured out crockpot meatballs. It definitely starts with quality beef, and I'm very thankful to be near our Dreamy 280 butcher. This recipe really is easy. I say that with a lot of recipes, but this really is quite easy. The hardest part of this recipe is having the patience to make the meatballs, and I make the meatballs really big, so it doesn't require as much patience. My kids will definitely tell you that. I can remember making albondigas soup, which is basically a Mexican meatball soup, and Seth's college roommate at the time, Isaac, had come over and he was eating the soup, and the meatballs were way larger than they should have been because I didn't have the patience to make them as small as they should have been. And he took a bite of the soup and said, "Can I have a fork?" And so he got a fork and he ate his soup with a fork, and that was okay. A fork and a spoon. But I do make my meatballs a little bit larger, and you don't have to do that. You can make your meatballs however you want to make them. One of the wonderful things about cooking is that you get to do what you want to do. So I'm going to wash my hands because I just touched the beef, and then I'll come back to you. As you know, I don't usually measure a lot, but I'll be measuring today because I think that it will help. At least for the initial time when you make these, it's good to have an exact measurement and then tweak it as you go. So one funny thing, and I think good idea, instead of buying breadcrumbs, often if I have stale crackers or stale bread, I'll just throw them in the blender and make my own breadcrumbs. It just is way cheaper and nothing goes to waste. So I almost always have a container of homemade breadcrumbs in my cupboard. So we also are going to use 2 eggs. And again, I need to call Dan because I really need my farm fresh eggs. Oh, I should be. There we go. Don't want any shells in my meatloaf. We will do 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning mix. This is from Oak Ridge Specialties. Every time I open this, I love smelling it. From Fenimore. This spice blend is amazing. You can get these at B.Kurt Dairy, the farm store in Barneveld. Totally life altering. And then we'll do a pinch of salt, more than a pinch of pepper. You know I love my pepper. There we go. And I did a half of an onion. I think I'm actually only going to do maybe a little more than that. I really like onions in my meatballs, but Matt isn't as big of a fan of it. So next we have garlic, and I will do at least 3 cloves of garlic. So we'll see how many cloves of garlic we can fit into the garlic press. This is another thing that I have used for decades. It's the Pampered Chef garlic press. It's definitely been a staple and well worth the money. I think I got this in 1995, so I've had it for a little while. The garbage man is outside and Bo is not barking. I am shocked. Bo's not a fan of the garbage man. He's not a fan of the UPS man. There we go. Okay. Awesome. I think that's a pretty good amount. There we go. Cool. So that's the hard part of it all. Now, well, actually I did say that the hard part was forming the meatballs, but now we just mix this together. So the trick here is to mix it together but not overmix it. If you overmix the ground beef, then it becomes more tough. But if you just semi-mix it until everything is just combined, then the meatballs will end up really soft. There are a lot of ways that you can cook meatballs, but the crock pot is definitely my favorite way because the texture of the meatballs is just so soft. There we go. We're getting things pretty well combined. And you can see the onions are pretty small, pretty petite diced. So in the description, I'll put petite diced, and now you know what that means. So there's our mixture. The only thing that I will do is form these into balls, put them in the crock pot, and then put spaghetti sauce over them. Typically when I make the meatballs, I put a can of diced tomatoes on the bottom of the crock pot, and then I put all of the meatballs, and then I add spaghetti sauce. I forgot to grab those two important things, so I'll be right back. Got what we need. Diced tomatoes and whatever spaghetti sauce you like. So I'm making these about 2 inches, I think, around diameter wise. So you can do whatever you like though. This takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it. So after this, we just plug this in, turn it on to low. You can do it on high for 3 to 4 hours or on low for 6 to 8 hours. I like to do it on low typically because the low and slow just makes a big difference, I think. So, and typically if I do this, I will do this oftentimes the night before, actually. So a lot of times I will make the meatballs the night before because doing this early in the morning is not always something that I have time for. So I will make the meatballs in here the night before, take out this insert, put the whole insert in the refrigerator, and then the next morning, as soon as I wake up, I take it out of the refrigerator and let it come to room temperature just a little bit, put it on the base, and turn it on. It is so, so, so easy to make these meatballs and definitely worth it. These meatballs actually freeze very well as well. So my Noah and Julia can attest to the fact that these meatballs from the freezer, they're just as delicious. I make these often and then I freeze them, and whenever I go to Pennsylvania, I just take them out and give them to Noah and Julia, and they definitely enjoy that. So I'm going to finish these meatballs, and then I'm going to plug this in, turn it on low, and walk away. And then we'll come together later and taste how delicious they are. Well, I'm pretty excited to try these meatballs. They've been cooking for about 5 hours on low. I would say that they are perfect as far as softness and doneness. They're so flavorful. Just perfect. I feel silly being this excited about them, but they really are that good.